All right. Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Happy Lunar New Year. Thanks for being here early. It is 8:30, February 17th, so we will go ahead and get started. Um, I am calling to order this meeting, and we need to approve the minutes from January 27th. I move to approve the meeting minutes from our last meeting on January 27th. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. I did not catch who those two voices were, but got some seconds. I definitely heard Councilmember Lawson.
I think it
All
was
right.
Councilmember Horton, so I want to make
Horton.
sure she
Okay.
gets, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Perfect. So those have been approved. We have no announcements, so we will go to agenda item 4A. Which
And-
is, let me see. Let me see. I think Councilmember Andrews brought this forward, but I believe Mayor Pro Tem Mayor Pro Tem Coombs might be joining to talk about it.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, Chair Lawson or Jackson, I don't see either of them on
I
yet.
don't either.
I know they both received the invite and we're planning to attend based on emails from this morning and Friday. So that's up to you.
Okay.
If you want to go to the next item and put that at the end and see if they join or how you'd like to proceed.
Yeah, let's go to the next item and we'll come back once they join. So we'll move forward with 4B, the resolution approval of the intergovernmental license agreement for the city of Aurora.
Good morning. My name is Stephanie Kuiper, and I am the manager of homelessness. I am bringing for the IGA for approval to go forward to study session. This is an intergovernmental agreement for one of the homeless division's shower trailers. We had them in the past when we had the pallets open. We are no longer utilizing them though, since the pallet shelters have closed. And so we are looking to do an IGA with Centennial so that they can lease the trailer from us.
All right.
But just if I can add additional context to that, we aren't able to sell it yet because of the funds that it was purchased with through federal COVID recovery dollars. And so we can't dispose of the property yet, but we are able to lease it for a time until we could come back and sell it. So that's the purpose for the lease rather than selling the property that we no longer need.
Okay. I do have some questions and then I'll pass it to the other committee members. First question is, why don't we use this ourselves?
I think with the navigation campus opening and then being able to provide showers, we now kind of have that where we haven't had it in the past. And so we have not decided to continue using them with the navigation campus open after shutting down the pallets.
Okay. And my second question, I think I read that we're not charging to lease it. Can I get some explanation for that?
Yes, we are not charging to lease it since the long-term plan is with the HUD approval to be able to sell it. I believe we're doing that just kind of in a good faith that they can lease and use for now, which is also similar to what we're doing with some of our vehicles for the navigation campus. And then once we get approval from HUD, then we would just do the full sale over to them.
Okay, and how much is this shower vehicle worth?
I would have to look into that and get back to you unless Jessica knows that.
Okay, great. That's my last question. I will pass it to Vice Chair Lawson.
Thank you, Chair Jackson. So remind me, Jessica, how many of these did we purchase? Because I remember when they were over at the church, how many did we purchase of these trailers?
Yeah, I believe we had 3 total. We had one that was larger,
Okay.
that originally was moving around the community. And we had a company that was actually, we were doing granting to operate the shower trailer. And then we had two small ones that were also operating at the two different pallet shelter sites. So there was three in total, two much smaller, one that was a larger unit. So they were being used prior, like at the very beginning of COVID and throughout COVID. When we had sheltering distributed, we did a emergency shelter one winter, and we used the larger one there as well. So we don't, operationally now, things are going through the navigation campus, and we no longer have that company that was operating the larger one.
Which one is Centennial getting, the larger or smaller one?
One of the smaller ones.
Okay, and just to kind of go back to what Chair Jackson said, the reasoning behind, I understand about the HUD, but the reasoning, is that a decision by city staff not to charge for a lease, or is that something within the parameters of HUD? Is this something that the city staff has decided not to charge for the lease of these? Because we paid quite a bit of money for this. I know this was COVID dollars, but still, they're still the city of Aurora's, but I know we want to be in good faith with other jurisdictions, but I guess whose decision was this to be made?
I can jump in.
Who is
Andrea
that?
Wood, City Attorney.
Oh, okay.
Andrea Wood,
Thank you,
City
Andrea.
Attorney's Office.
Sorry, Andrea, I didn't see you.
No problem. It is a HUD regulation, so we can't take any money or
Okay.
transfer any ownership until we get approval from HUD. So that is something that is out of our control at this point.
Okay, and when is that, my final question, Chair Jackson, and when does the approval, do we have any idea of when that approval will come? Or have you guys been in touch with HUD on that, or we're just waiting?
I believe that we had reached out to HUD several months ago during the government shutdown and had not heard back. It is my plan to reach out to HUD. My understanding is that these things can take anywhere from several months up to a year to get approval.
Okay, all right, thank you so much. Just being on the Pfizer chair, it's good to know that this will happen, especially, I know this is dealing with housing, but we do meet with HUD, so it might be good to have this information in general. So that's all I have, Chair.
All right, thank you. I will go to Member Horton.
Good morning, everybody. Sorry, I am sick again. Um, However, my question is, with the navigation center, is it the shower options and cleaning availability for those who need the facilities, is that available and is it sufficient enough?
Yes, they do have showers available at the navigation campus, both in the day center as well as in the overnight tiers. To my knowledge, it is sufficient.
Okay, okay. I just wanted to make sure that, and then with the leasing agreement, um, I'm sorry if I didn't read it in detail, but the timeline for the lease is what? Is it like an indefinite? 'Cause I didn't see anything right off the bat when I was looking earlier.
I believe it is an annual lease. Andrea, can you confirm that?
Yeah, so and to be clear, I know terminology is important here because of the HUD regulations. It's actually a license, not a lease, so we're licensing them the right to use it, and that would be renewed yearly.
Great. And then clarifying to that point, this is for Commerce City, correct? Not Centennial?
Correct.
Okay. So just keep that in mind. And sorry, Councilmember Horton, any other questions?
No, not at this time. I appreciate the reframing that it's a lease and not a lease. Oh my gosh, a license. Thank you for that.
Beautiful. Yeah, and I just kind of want to circle back and say, maybe if we could look into, can the city use this? I'd like more information on like the historical background onto how we came to closing it down, because not everybody can get to the navigation center. You know, I live in Ward 1 right behind MLK Junior Library. There are still folks that are very active in that corridor, and maybe they don't want to go to the navigation center, but we still want to, you know, offer them hygiene and keep our streets clean, in that regard. So I would just like more information, because there might be some barriers to getting over to the navigation center, that these trailers could help alleviate. So just want to make sure we're not, especially if we invested a lot of money into them, and obviously other cities want to use them. So they're probably a hot commodity. And with that, I do see Council Member Hancock is on the call. Anything to add?
I would just say, I believe the navigation campus provides transportation options for people who need to go and take showers and have those services available to them. I would caution about putting showers on the streets, as particularly in Ward 1, as we're working on a DDA. If we're trying to attract businesses to that area, the last thing we want is to have public showers on that street. So it's something that you want to be thinking about as we're moving forward with this.
Thank you. Awesome. And I know Mayor Pro Tem Coombs is on as well. Did you want to add anything?
Yeah, just on that point regarding potentially being able to use the showers, down where Councilmember Lawson and I live, we're very far from the navigation campus. And there are people who are in various locations. There are some churches that have food banks and other things of that nature that could potentially, it could be an outreach tool, right? We have a situation where from time to time the showers are there, and that can be an opportunity to say, you can get actually more services at the navigation. So it doesn't have to be like we do this permanently and people are coming all the time down to this area. It can be we know people are here. We can have them come because they need this resource, and then have the communication to encourage them.
Chair Jackson, to
Yes.
rebut Councilmember Coombs's thing, you explained that to the residents in Ward 5. I would love for you to. There's some people that might have some ideologies and philosophies of yourself and members, but I know that that would not be acceptable in Ward 5. So you explain that. If that happens, you explain that to the residents of Ward 5.
Happy to do it. There's a number of folks that I know would be interested.
And there's a number of folks I
in
know
this
too. Yeah, a number of folks I know too that would be absolutely just not for that.
Yeah. And kind of to tie this all together, our unhoused community members are still part of our community, and we do want to prioritize hygiene. So whether they're laying on the ground or loitering or walking down the street and, they're unhygienic or there's some issue there, there's pros and cons. So I bet this would come forward. Can you explain maybe after this process, if we do want to move forward with the intergovernmental agreement, once the showers are up for sale or HUD approved, we get the approval from HUD, this will have to come back through this committee or go to study session?
Yeah, so when we get approval from HUD to sell, we will have to come back through, as well as the IGA license that we have now for leasing would also have to go all the way through study session and council as well.
Okay, great. So we'll just put a pin in it there. I believe we are just approving the intergovernment, or to move this intergovernment license agreement forward for more discussion at study session.
Correct.
So with that, I'll do a final call for any last comments from anybody on the call. All right. So does this policy committee wish to support and move forward to study session? I approve this.
I
will
approve
go
moving
to vice.
forward.
Okay.
I
Awesome.
approve it as well to move
All
forward.
right. Thank you both. I do see that Mayor Pro Tem Coombs is on the call. So if we could go back to item 4A, City of Aurora Camping Ordinance.
Yes, do staff want to share anything first or, okay.
I was gonna say, I'm happy to share. Again, my name is Stephanie. I am the manager of homelessness. What we are looking at is a resolution to the camping ordinance. And so these changes that we're looking at are things that will are things that we are already practicing, and then they're just here to put them in. And so the things that we are looking at is the fourth whereas clause for the resolution, where it talks about the Aurora Regional Navigation Campus serving as the primary access point for shelter and supportive services for individuals that are experiencing homelessness, to help encourage those to seek services there, as well as the section 5, where it talks about adverse weather and extraordinary circumstances. We do work with a contractor, Keeson, who goes out with us when we do abatements that helps to clean the area. Keeson does hold several other contracts in our area, primarily with hospitals. So historically, when there has been snow or adverse weather, they have not always been able to help. This adverse weather section in here gives the manager of homelessness the right to cancel abatements due to extreme weather. With the thought as well that then people can shelter in place if needed during extreme weather, or if Keeson, our contractor, is not able to make it due to other circumstances with adverse weather, we have the availability to either postpone or cancel that day's abatements. And the Mayor Pro Tem Coombs.
Yeah, so this is something that I had talked with Councilmember Andrews about quite a bit. He unfortunately had a meeting conflict this morning and couldn't join. But he wanted to go ahead and move these forward, which is, again, that formalizing that we're not abating during cold weather, so that that's communicated to folks that we're not going to be, moving people along, moving any of their belongings, anything of that nature when it's and then also returning to providing notice, where it was stated that we shouldn't provide notice and we weren't going to provide notice after the Supreme Court case that identified that we weren't necessarily required to do that. It is beneficial for a number of reasons to go ahead and provide that notice. Namely, we can give people the opportunity to leave if that's what they want to do, instead of being more surprised by the arrival of folks to clear the camp. They can just go ahead and move on of their own choice. But it also gives people the opportunity to prepare themselves and get ready to make that decision if they are going to come into the navigation campus and accept services from the city, and gives the outreach staff the time to have that communication. And so again, this is Councilmember Andrews' resolution, but he asked me to hop in and provide that context and background.
Awesome. All right, I will start with some questions that I have. Thank you for explaining what's changing and what already remains. I do support moving this forward to study session. However, I do have some questions, and just like when we talk about the city, does this apply to police as well? I know police are sworn, and I went on a ride along with the housing team about a couple weeks ago, and I got to see an abatement happen like in real time. Well, not an abatement. I'm not quite sure what it was, but I think it was triggered due to an abatement that was supposed to be happening, but police came in. There was no coordination between law enforcement and city staff. So when I read this resolution and it keeps saying the city, the city, the city, does this apply to police as well?
So Chair Jackson, I'll attempt to answer that. This would pertain to the process, which does include the police department. So the experience you had is not the abatement team within Housing and Community Services, it was the outreach team. So the way the process typically works is the abatement team in Housing and Community Services is coordinating with the police department on abatements. The outreach team would come several days before and then the day before to make contact with those folks. And so the police department would not have purview over the posting piece of the abatement, and or typically they're not transporting people to the navigation campus either. So and then they do not make the determination on when the abatements happen. Housing and Community Services coordinates with Keeson, our contractor, on when those are actually scheduled. So we would make the decision on if there was inclement weather, if we would cancel for that day or not. So it would pertain to the police department in the sense of they're included in the process of abatements, but the decision making on whether to cancel or not and the posting requirement would come through Housing and Community Services. Hopefully that clarifies a little bit.
It absolutely does. Thank you so much for that. And last question.
I'm sorry, can I just add one other piece? Sorry.
Mhm.
There is also the Aurora cold weather outreach team that does go out during that cold weather. So even though abatements wouldn't be conducted, there still is collaboration between Jessica's team, APD, fire. I believe, is Aurora Mental Health still involved in ACOT? Yes, okay. It's been a minute since I've been directly plugged in on that. But so they go out and support folks getting into shelter during that cold weather, even though abatements are taking place. So that's another space where APD and others would be involved.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Because it sounds like with abatement, it's more focused on the actual objects and the camping. But then there's still people. So you can't have abatements during extreme weather, but what happens to the people during extreme weather? And my last question is about that extreme weather. Do we need to define it? Are we talking, temps under 40 if there's snow and ice on the ground, 32 if there's not snow and ice, and who gets to say what? Who makes that call? It's the Stephanie, that would be you, that makes the call. Okay. Do we need to clarify temperatures?
Yeah, I don't know if we want to clarify it within the resolution. Typically, though, we go ahead and start ACOT or cold weather when it is below 20 degrees and dry, or below 40 and wet outside.
Okay.
So those are the normal temperatures that we're looking at for those cold weather responses.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that clarification. All right, Vice Chair Lawson.
Thank you. So what I see this as is just a slow repeal of the current camping ban, but I do have some questions, and maybe Andrea and Jessica, you can answer these for me. In the 225 Parker Road, we call it the triangle. So in this resolution, it only just says Colorado Department of Transportation. However, in that corridor, the triangle that we call, it's the Army Corps of Engineers, it's the CDOT, it's the state of Colorado, it's us, and it's also Arapahoe County, and then it's Denver. So my question is, with this new 72 hours, because it looks like we're going back to where we were, when I call or send all these council requests, number one, are we taking down the trespass signs in that area? Okay, so
no, we don't intend to make any changes to the signage
Okay.
or the weekly abatements that are occurring in that area. Those stay on the schedule with this.
Okay.
We don't intend to. Those are already posted and happening. This does call out CDOT specifically. We have an IGA with them, so that's part of the reason there for calling it out. But anything in that whereas it still says, an unauthorized camp presenting an imminent public health or safety risk. So anything that would be imminent where there's it's impeding traffic flow, there's an immediate public health or safety risk, there's a fire, anything like that, we would still want to be able to do what we refer to as an emergency abatement if there's an issue. But, and I recognize there's a lot of different jurisdictions down on that triangle. We could list all of them here. CDOT was listed just because that's the primary amount of property that we have that we do abatements on, and then we do have the IGA with them. But we don't intend to make any changes to the weekly abatements in that area.
My recommendation on this, because I'm glad that this came up because I have my Heather Gardens meeting Saturday, so I can present this. It needs to have something in here that says because I know that this is going to go lead into other things. It really needs this corridor, if it's going to be protected, like all the work that has been done on this corridor, it needs to have something in here. And I don't know what the legal wording would, because I'm not an attorney. It doesn't have to be listed, but something that jurisdictional, I don't know what the wording is right now. I'm sorry, I didn't think about it, but I don't know that it needs to have something there, because it's just more than CDOT. And if this goes a little bit further, I want that to at least stay within, if this comes into an ordinance to do a repeal or whatever, I just want something like that, because that corridor has been worked on for a long time for that triangle. It's not only a public safety issue for the traffic or the people who are there, but the people who are unhoused there, so I don't know, Andrea, is there some wording that could be, it doesn't have to list everything, but something that could be put in there if it's amendable to the to Mayor Pro Tem or to Councilmember Andrews? So that would be something right there that I would like to ask or get put in, if possible, on this resolution. I guess my next question is this pertaining, so if this is resolution, for example, last night I submitted a council request, and I'm just trying to get an example of where this would be applicable. There was a gentleman, I was going south on Parker Road. He was laying on the ground by the Village Inn on Arapahoe Crossings. Coming back 2 hours later, the gentleman was still laying on the ground with all of his things. I hope he's okay. I did submit a council request regarding that. So if that individual is on that particular property and I do a council request, so we would have to wait 72 hours? If this resolution passes, that's an example that and I mean, if the weather whether the weather is cold or not.
I was just gonna say, I don't think so, because this is for encampments. So if it was just an individual experiencing a crisis, I think they could intervene
Well, this
immediately.
individual was camping. So, and I did submit a council request. So how would this be applicable to that individual if this passes as a resolution? I submitted it last night. I know this person we're in the current way of the camping ban, and the outreach team will reach out. But within that particular situation, this gentleman was camping there. He was laying down. I'm not sure, I hope he's okay, but him or her. But I just wanted to ask, in that scenario, how would this be applicable? Would they have to wait for 72 hours and let that individual just stay there and camp on that property, or with the management company? Can you tell me how that would work?
So, Councilmember Lawson, the outreach team can be out there right away, right? This is just about clearing trash and debris from the encampment side of things. So you send that in, Stephanie can deploy her outreach team right away to go make contact with that person. And say, hey, you can't be here. Did you know that? Do all the normal things they do with outreach. So the abatement piece, which typically has to get scheduled anyway when you send those in, or when we get Access Aurora, that has to get scheduled. And typically it's not until at least 72 hours anyway. If it comes in on a Monday, we can sometimes get to it later in the week, but typically to get it scheduled with Keeson, we send out those abatement schedules on Fridays for the following week, so we know exactly where we're going to do the abatements.
Okay, so in this particular case, if the individual, the unhoused individual I saw yesterday leaves the things there, which I think is the same individual that you guys have reached out before, that was over by the Walmart, he leaves his things there, then tell me the scenario. He could leave, though, that individual could leave those things there for 72 hours.
Yeah, so what would happen is I would deploy my team out there to go and speak with him. They would encourage the individual to seek the ARNC or another shelter area. And then kind of like Jessica said, we usually do abatements the week prior, so it gets sent out Friday. So we already have this whole week scheduled. So generally what you'll see with council requests when we need abatements is we will ask for an extension so that we can have time to schedule it and then get out there to go and take care of it. So my team would be deployed, the outreach team, 2 to 3 times to try and make contact, try and get that person to move their belongings into the ARNC. And then meanwhile, my abatement team would be working to get that on schedule so that we can get it taken care of if the person does not, if the person decides to stay there.
Okay, well then my last question is this. When I report, and I report many things on Parker Road, the Triangle area and through Hamden. When I go there and I see the people, the encampments underneath the underpass, you guys seem to get those done pretty fast. So tell me what the difference is. Is it because it has the trespass sign there versus if it's out on Parker Road or anywhere I'm just talking specifically in my ward, anywhere in my ward that we see the encampments, like down in the creek area where I've reported. You know that I go around in the area, when I'm driving around, I'm looking around as well, not just getting council requests about encampments from my residents. I look as well. So I guess I'm just trying to understand the difference, because when I report the ones underneath the underpass, those get abated a lot faster. Is it because of the trespass sign that are there versus not being in the triangle?
Councilmember Lawson, that's correct. So those
Okay.
trespass signs essentially say this area is closed. Nobody can be here. It's a safety concern. And that was what was established with CDOT and with the update to the ordinance is those particular areas. I did just want to clarify the area you're speaking to. We believe is private property. So code enforcement actually would handle that on the private property. So I know you sent a lot of things about some are public, some are private, and we always determine which is which, and then it has 2 different paths that it takes. But the private property would be different. We would issue the manager or the property owner a 10-day notice, and then they would handle that from a trespass perspective. So that's more of a code enforcement and police department path. The outreach team is really supposed to be working on public property per the current camping ordinance.
And basically, my last question, this is basically, are we trying to say that this resolution is due to inclement weather only, or is it really encompassing everything that within a 72 hours, et cetera? This resolution.
It's making changes to both of those areas and requirements.
Okay, thank you for addressing all my questions.
Thank you, Vice Chair. All right, I'm going to go to Council Member Horton.
Thank you, Chair. I guess, from Councilmember Lawson's questions, my follow-up is what is the working definition? What constitutes as a encampment? What are the parameters, the bullet points people look for?
Yeah, so camping is usually a tent or another structure that is made in which someone can reside within. So if we see someone just like standing on the side of the road with a backpack, that wouldn't be considered camping. Similarly, if someone is staying in their car or RV, that does not apply to the camping ordinance either. That goes through PD and not through the outreach team. So we're looking for either tents or man-made structures that people are living within.
Okay. Is that definition anywhere that can be provided to all of council if this moves forward, just so that way everyone has a working definition, and there's hopefully eliminate some confusion?
Absolutely.
All right,
We
thank
can
you,
get
Stephanie.
that over to you guys. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Okay, Council Member Hancock.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I am again want to echo Councilmember Lawson is concerned that this is a regression in the strength of the camping ban that we currently have right now. I believe that restoring the 72-hour notice requirement would undermine Aurora's ability to maintain safe neighborhoods and to support redevelopment, again, while creating negative multi-jurisdictional impacts. I too am concerned about the I-225 corridor at Parker, because that is part of that is in my ward as well, and my constituents, and I often drive that corridor and I see people camping underneath the underpass. And to Jessica Prosser's team, they're very quick to address those issues. I'm also knowing a rhythm has developed here in terms of abatements. People know on Wednesday they're coming, so they'll move and then they come back the day afterward. It just happens. People get used to the flow of how these things go. And, you know, since this does span multiple jurisdictions, it sounds like you have addressed that in an adequate way. But I'm still very concerned that we need to, you know, keep this ordinance in the way that it is and not make these rollbacks, because I see this like Councilmember Lawson. This is a way to undo the camping ban. It's just chipping at it one drop at a time, like the Chinese water torture. And we will not be safer. It is not a crime to be homeless, but homeless people commit crimes. And we need to, you know, this has a domino effect in how we keep our community safe. We want folks to get help. We want folks to go to the navigation campus. We want folks to take advantage of these services. And as I understand, if they need transportation help, there's transportation provided. And so we're encouraging people to be on the streets, and that's not what we want. And so I wanted to make sure that my voice is heard with regards to this. I'm totally opposed to this. I know I don't get a vote in this, but I think this is counterintuitive to what we're trying to do to keep our city safe and secure, and also to keep these folks who find themselves on the streets safe and secure as well.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Hancock, for your thoughts. And I saw Andrea raise your hand, and then I'll come to Mayor Pro Tem Coombs.
Yeah, Andrea Wood for the City Attorney's Office. I just want to be clear because we have thrown around both the word ordinance and resolution. So I just want to be clear that this is a resolution. It is not an ordinance, and it is not changing any part of our code or prior ordinance. It is a resolution to create policy.
What, I just have a follow-up to that. What is the ordinance currently?
So the ordinance, the city code is, I mean, there's several sections of the city code that address camping, and none of that is being changed. So nothing in the city code is being changed by this resolution. It's just creating policy for how the division handles abatements and providing that notice and outreach beforehand.
Thank you so much for that clarification. Mayor Pro Tem Coombs.
Thank you. Yeah, there's just a couple things that I wanted to also note and clarify. So Jessica, do we have other IGAs in that triangle in addition to the CDOT IGA? We don't.
No,
so it's just
we do
kind
not.
of okay. So what are the agreements related to? Sorry, go ahead.
So we have an agreement with essentially from conversations we've had with Arapahoe County. They will authorize us sometimes to take care of property that's theirs. Typically they take care of it, and it's through the sheriff's office. And then Denver's taking care of their piece. And then with the Army Corps of Engineers and state, they're taking care of their areas. From time to time, we've done when there's an emergency, we have taken care of it. But we do not have formal IGAs that I know of besides with CDOT in that area.
Okay, instead of CDOT specifically, could we just say something like, except where the city has an intergovernmental agreement or other agreement to abate property on a different schedule or something along those lines, right? We have those relationships. Other folks are taking care of their stuff. We're taking care of our stuff. I think the main thing on the CDOT that I talked to Jessica about, that I know the mayor and Councilmember Andrews have also talked to Jessica and her team about, is that along those roadway corridors, like that is a safety issue immediately, right? If folks are in, you know, an underpass or a culvert or those kind of situations, like that is a health and safety issue, and those are specifically called out. No one is trying to ignore the health and safety issues. There's other public health risk issues that are also covered under that emergency abatement clause, right? We want to make sure that if there are any types of imminent threats or risks to either the individuals camping or the general public, that those are addressed. So nothing here takes away the ability for staff to do those abatements. And I do also want to be clear, the mayor, who was the sponsor of the camping ordinance, has very strong opinions around abatements, camping ban, very supportive of the navigation campus, all of those things, is in support of this resolution and has been consulted on the contents of this resolution. So just wanted to make sure that it was clear that those discussions have been had, and that we are making sure that the ability to abate in those really high risk zones is maintained through this resolution. And that the cold weather piece is also already the practice of staff. We're just formalizing and communicating that practice. And then finally, I'm wondering in that cold weather portion, if we can just call out ACOT specifically, so that folks are aware as well that that's both a resource and a process that we have in place. And that can maybe also help tie it to the standard and requirements for when we use ACOT. That's also when we're not doing cold weather abatements or not doing abatements due to inclement weather.
Awesome. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Coombs, for that background and grounding. Thank you, everybody, for this robust discussion. I do want to do a time check. We're around 9:15. We've got about 3 more agenda items. What we're doing with 4A is approving this item to move forward to study session. So for folks who do have thoughts on amendments, you know, I would just say, like, no, you will have that opportunity again in study session to bring those up. But just keeping that in mind. And then also, this isn't solving, you know, as I'm sure everybody knows on this call, homelessness is a complex issue. We're in a little bit of an experimental phase because where we had this resolution previously, we didn't have the navigation center. So we're kind of going to see this push and pull, and between, you know, our folks going to the navigation center, you know, how are they getting there? Things like that. Does navigation center reduce, you know, the amounts of encampments? How does abatement fit into that? So just keep an open mind. It's an experiment. There's some factors we didn't have before. So, and again, this is just moving it forward to study session where we will continue to have further discussion. So with that, I do approve this item to move forward to study session. I will go to Vice Chair Lawson.
Just for the record here, I don't approve, me personally, on this committee. I don't approve this resolution. However, I approve it moving forward because I do want to get I think it's important for other council member comments and also resident comments.
Beautiful. Thank you. And Member Horton.
I approve.
Lovely. All right. Thank you all. Okay, we're skipping down to 4C, Aurora's Flex Housing Fund data. I specifically requested for this presentation just because I have been getting a lot of constituents who are facing eviction, facing housing issues, and I want to know what this fund is and if it's appropriate for some of these constituents that are reaching out to me.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Emily Fuller. I am the Homeless Program Coordinator Thank you for allowing some time this morning to talk about the Flex Fund and go over some data from 2025. Next slide, please, Andrew. Okay, so establishing what the Flex Fund is, it was established in 2017 with the purpose to remove financial barriers that households face to maintain or secure permanent housing. This assists with our community's goal of engaging in homelessness prevention and making it brief, rare, and non-recurring. Next slide, please. These are some of the things that we can cover with the Flex Fund. So anything related to eviction prevention, application fees, security deposits, first month of rent, utility assistance, relocation bus tickets. So if somebody has a family or a friend that they can move in with in a different city or state, we can help pay for a bus ticket in order to reunify those folks. Bridge housing hotel stays, and rental arrears on a past unit in some cases as well. Next slide, please. The eligibility for this fund is folks have to be experiencing a housing crisis in the city of Aurora. We do have an income requirement because we are only able to provide a max of $5,000. So we do have an income requirement, but we also have an income limit. So households cannot exceed 80% of the area median income. I have a chart kind of below on this slide that breaks that down a little bit more. This does come from HUD and it's updated, I believe, every single year. Could be more or less, but I always check just to make sure we're not behind on anything. Next slide, please. So we do have a very big need in our community for this type of funding, and we're not able to meet that need 100%. So we do prioritize the applications that we receive. That prioritization looks like folks with demand letters or court summons for their eviction, households that are exiting literal homelessness as defined by HUD, and households fleeing domestic violence. Those are our top 3 priorities. And within each of those categories, we are also prioritizing families. So folks with a minor child. Households with high ledger balances or unit-to-unit moves are also eligible for our fund, but we're not always able to support them just because of our budget limits. Next slide, please. So for applying for our assistance, we do require that applicants must be working with a case manager. This is because navigating this process can be very difficult to negotiate with landlords, to develop payment plans, anything like that. So it's really great to have a person there that knows the system very well and can help advocate. Additionally, we ask for that because the financial assistance is super important, but sometimes it's not able to address some of those longer term stability needs. So they're there to help if they need food stamps, if they're looking for health insurance, childcare, all those other things that can cause some instability. I host trainings at least once a month, sometimes more if there are a lot of case managers who are interested. It is open to anyone. We don't have anyone's welcome to the training. In 2025, the application portal is open for the first 5 business days of each month. So it's not first come, first serve. Case managers and applicants have a couple of days to work through the application. In 2026, we did adjust, so it does open now twice a month. It opens the first and the third week of the month, just to ensure that we are getting folks in the middle of the month as well. Next slide, please. So we have a ton of agencies trained. This list here does not encompass every single one. They are just the ones that I pulled out. So we have, both of the counties, many of the hospitals in the area, a lot of the social service providers, the VA, the housing authority, so many. What is important about these agencies is, for example, UC Health can apply for the Flex Fund, but they will only apply for folks that are connected to UC Health. So often it's patients. We do have agencies that have drop-in centers like Advanced Pathways with the Day Center services or Aurora Mental Health and Recovery that are great for referrals for anyone, since they don't have to be necessarily part of that specific program or a patient at a hospital. Next slide, please. The most frequent agencies that are submitting applications to us is the Aurora Housing Authority, Aurora Mental Health and Recovery, Mile High Behavioral Health Care, Arapahoe County, and the city's outreach team. Next slide, please. Okay, so looking into our data from 2025, there were a total of 512 applications submitted, with 297 applications approved and 201 denied and 14 withdrew. The denials, the majority of them come from applicants that are residing outside of the city or submitting incomplete applications. For example, we had 41% of applicants, or excuse me, not percent, 41 total applicants from outside of the city that applied this year that we did have to deny because they're living in
I'm gonna be a lazy
other,
piece of shit. I can
other
pull that off.
places. And then our other big reason for denial is incomplete applications or missing documents or submitting documents that don't match what our finance department needs, etc. We did work on adjusting this for 2026. So now you are unable to submit the application unless you have every single required document. It's not totally foolproof because you could submit, you know, the wrong document, but for example, but we're hoping that will help reduce the amount that we are denying. Next slide, please. Some other data points that I wanted to share is 168 applications were, and this is for approved applications. So 168 of our approved applications were from single parents. 71 applicants were from people experiencing literal homelessness, and we spent a total of $794,192.78. This is a combination of our marijuana tax revenue, some private funding, and we got a grant from an organization called Community Solutions that also contributed to this fund. Next slide, please. All right, so breaking down that number of approved applications based on category. For security deposits in first month of rent, that was 67 applications approved. Rental arrears on a current unit, 168. Relocation, 26, rental arrears on a past unit, 9, utility assistance was 20, application or holding fees was 3, and bridge hotel stays were 18. It's important to note that you can apply for multiple categories in one application, so these numbers don't equal that 297 from a few slides ago, but oftentimes for the folks that are in our bridge hotel stays are also applying for security deposits, so it kind of changes the numbers that you see a little bit. Next slide, please. Because we are not able to meet the need of the entire community, I also wanted to highlight some other resources that I often refer folks to when I am denying applications or when folks are just asking for other resources. The state of Colorado has rental assistance. They have a pre-application that opens monthly. The last opening was last week, actually. And from there, applicants are randomly selected to apply for their full application, and those facing eviction are prioritized. Arapahoe County also has some rental assistance. They have a pre-screening that opens the second week of each month, and they keep it open until they receive 40 applications. You do have to have a court summons to apply for their fund, and household income cannot exceed 80% of the area median income. There are also some programs and agencies specific in Aurora that offer this type of funding, but you do have to be part of their program, so it's not something that I'm able to widely share, but I try to make referrals when I can. Next slide, please. All right, that is the end. Thank you again so much for the time this morning. And this is just information only, but happy to take any questions, and my contact information is there as well if needed.
Thank you so much, Emily, for your presentation. It's really good to know we have this resource. I do have a couple questions. Yeah. Do folks have to have a job? Because I, referred somebody to this program and they came back and said they were denied because they didn't have a job.
We do have an income requirement. So they do have to have income unless they have a voucher that is paying for 100% of their rent. Sometimes we'll pay a security deposit because that's not covered, but there do have to be income.
Okay, so the AMI factors are not minimums or not maximums, they're minimums?
It's maximum. So no, you can't go above 80% of the area median income.
But you have to have some sort of income. You can't be at
Yes.
0. Okay. And then where you went over where the case managers are. Is there an entry point you recommend for people who maybe don't have connection to any case manager services or folks who are reaching out to city council? Where should that entry point be that we refer them to?
So the Aurora Regional Navigation Campus does have case managers that are trained, so that's a great starting place. If it's a family, they can go to Aurora Mental Health and Recovery as well. You can go to Aurora Mental Health and Recovery as an individual or a couple as well, but for families, there's also the Colfax Community Network out of Mile High Behavioral Healthcare that does a lot of applications.
Okay.
And there is an organization that is technically based in Denver called East Colfax Community Collective. They work with a lot of folks in Aurora as well, and their staff speaks many different languages. So if that's coming up as well as a barrier, they're a great place to refer folks to as well.
Okay, great. And then last question, do you collect any data of the impact, like the longevity impact of families or individuals who have utilized these funds? Where are they now? Are they still housed?
I don't. I'm sure that the case managers have, and that's
Okay.
something we could look into adding into this fund going forward.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I will give the mic to Vice Chair Lawson.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Emily, thank you for the presentation. I know that this has been a very impactful program. Just one question that I have is, I know that when you guys give these security deposits and first month's rent, I think the importance is to make sure that the individuals or the families, whoever it may be, can be able to sustain it long term. So I hope that you're not putting individuals in places where they're going to be, again, maybe unhoused or be facing eviction again. So can you just tell me a little bit about that? I probably should know. I know we've been over this program and it is a very good program, but I know that in my past, when I was at large, there was a couple people that we would give the security deposits to, and I know that the program has been refined, but then they would only be able to sustain it for a little bit, and then they would be evicted again. And then we would have to try to see if we could get them help again. So I'm just looking at the long term because I think that that's what's important on this. So can you just explain that a little bit, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for your question. So part of that is why we have that income requirement. So I do look at folks' pay stubs or whatever they're submitting in that to make sure that they do have enough money to pay the rent going forward. That doesn't always work out the way that we would like it to. So part of the application, there is a question that is asking, how are you going to remain stable following our assistance? So I look at that, and sometimes I email back the case manager saying, like, I need a little bit more information here, or I'm concerned about this. So it does become a little bit of a dialogue because that is a concern and we want to try to address it as much as possible. So that's what we're doing right now. And especially if we see folks coming back for the second or third time, I'll say, like, you need to show me a budget, or you need to show me some more of a stability plan so that we're not in this situation going forward.
Thank you. All right, going to Councilmember Horton.
Hi, Chair Jackson. I don't have any questions at this time.
Councilmember Hancock, do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask Emily, you mentioned before that you wanted to make sure that people had stability in their housing, should they qualify for this program. Is there a limit to how many times a person can apply? Because you had mentioned frequent flyers, folks who, get the assistance and then they fall off and then they come back for assistance again. Can you explain that in a little more detail?
Sure. Right now, our policy, like in our like manual, if you will, is no more than 5 times. We haven't had anyone get to that 5th time. And we do prioritize first-time applicants above anyone that's coming back for a second or a third time. We could definitely talk about changing that limits if needed. Right now, I don't believe in 2025 there was anyone that was applying for more than their 3rd time.
Okay, may I follow up, please? So when they come, if they come for that first time, everybody falls on hard times. They need a little help. I totally get that. When they come back second or third time, are you suggesting that you get them in some kind of a financial management program or something so this won't continue to be an issue for them?
Yes, that's part of it. As I say that, if we're going to fund you again, I want to see you working with the case manager and developing a little bit more of a budget or a stability, because you are unlikely to get this again because we are prioritizing those first time folks.
Thank you.
Of course, thank you.
Right, thank
Chair,
you
can I
so.
just ask just one more question? I'm
Yes.
just sorry, just one more. So when you say 5 times, Emily, is that within a calendar year? Or is that over time of the individual that is asking for the assistance?
It's 5 times ever.
Oh, ever. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah, of course.
Okay, beautiful. All righty, thank you for that information. Our next item on the agenda is 4D, Introduction to Prop 123 and the impact in Aurora.
Good morning. My name is Sarah Pulliam. I am the Community Development Manager, and I'm going to introduce you to Prop 123 this morning. Next slide, please, Andrew. I'll start with a brief background on Prop 123, then I'll walk through the application process and local commitments required. After that, I'll share the funding Aurora has already brought in, and finally, I'll connect this to the real affordability data for Aurora households. Next slide, please. Proposition 123 was approved by Colorado voters in 2022 to directly address the state's housing affordability crisis. It created the State Affordable Housing Fund, generating approximately $300 million every year for housing programs statewide. The goal is long-term sustainable funding, not one-time grants, to support housing production, stability, and affordability. Next slide, please. 60% of the funds support housing development and financing through the Colorado Housing Finance Authority, or CHAFA, and the other goes through the Office of Economic Development and International Trade, including land banking and construction. 40% supports community-facing programs like down payment assistance, homelessness prevention, mobile home preservation, and planning capacity. The structure allows the state to address both housing supply and immediate affordability pressures. Next slide, please. To access any of these funds, Aurora must sign an affordable housing commitment annually. That commitment requires a 9% increase in affordable housing units over 3 years. We signed our commitment back in September of 2023, and we must produce 1,650 units at the end of by the end of December 31st, 2026. If we fail to do that, we have to sit out of funding for 1 year. These commitments align directly with Aurora's broader housing strategy. Next slide, please. Applications are competitive and similar to federal housing grants. The city works closely with state housing staff early to ensure project readiness. Submissions require strong documentation, budgets, environmental reviews, market studies, and leverage commitments. Final approvals occur at the state level through DOLA, the Division of Housing, or the Colorado Housing Finance Authority. Next slide, please. Fast track is a major factor in eligibility and scoring. Funding is limited statewide. Readiness and impact are critical. There are multiple deadlines throughout the year depending on program. And these dollars are most powerful when layered with federal and local funding. Next slide, please. Proposition 123 gives Aurora access to a major new funding stream that didn't exist before. It strengthens our ability to develop affordable housing, preserve existing housing, support home ownership, prevent homelessness, and it also helps to remain competitive for future housing investments. Next slide, please. The city of Aurora itself has already successfully secured Prop 123 funding. Our awards include $90,000 for homelessness resolutions, $720,000 for a down payment assistance program that's currently running, $93,750 for planning capacity. We're utilizing those funds to do our housing needs assessment that's required, and also our housing action plan or our housing strategy. These directly support residents while strengthening long-term housing systems. Next slide, please. This slide summarizes the funding brought into Aurora to date. These early awards position the city strongly for future development and financing rounds. We expect additional partner applications and development projects moving forward. Next slide, please. To understand affordability, we start with HUD's area median income limits. These define who qualifies for affordable housing. Sorry, that's the wrong slide. This one shows you actually who has been awarded funding through the city of Aurora, not just the city itself. You can see that Aurora Comprehensive Community, Aurora Housing Authority has brought in funding, Elevation Community Land Trust, Grovewood Community Development, Langston Hughes Affordable Housing Project. But all in all, we brought in over $20 million in Prop 123 to the city of Aurora through the city itself and our partners. Next slide, please. So this slide is to understand affordability. We start with HUD's area median income limits. These define who qualifies for affordable housing programs and what affordable means in consideration of dollars. Most affordable housing is designed for households earning between 30 and 60% of the area median income, which represents many of Aurora's working families. Next slide, please. So this is what our affordable housing index looks like. This slide shows that what housing is considered affordable for a typical one-person renter household in Aurora based on spending no more than 30% of income on housing. As income decrease, the affordable monthly rent drops sharply. This highlights why many residents struggle to compete in today's rental market. Next slide, please. As you can see, the index of 100% means just affordable. Anything below 100 is housing stress. Our housing affordable index is just below 80 at around 79. This is a four-person household comparison. It shows affordability. Even at moderate incomes, affordable housing costs remain well below current market rents. Larger families face even greater cost burdens when affordable units are limited. Next slide. This is a comparison of voucher versus market rent cost burden. It illustrates the gap between what households can afford and current market rents. Housing vouchers help bridge that gap, but availability is limited. Without subsidies or affordable units, many families are paying far more than 30% of income toward housing, increasing financial instability and displacement risk. Next slide, please. While our housing affordability gap remains significant, as shown by the affordability index and cost burden data, the city's community development team is utilizing every resource to leverage projects to the highest for the highest impacts from construction to preservation. Proposition 123 for Aurora's long-term housing success puts us in a position that while market conditions are slowing in development today, our strategy ensures we are ready to scale production as soon as the financial environment allows. It remains a critical tool to support housing solutions. Next slide, please. Thank you for listening. Are there any questions?
Thank you so much, Sarah. Your presentation's really thorough, and I really need to look more into the affordability gap because I think that really stood out to me. I don't have any questions. Thank you. I'll pass it to Vice Chair Lawson.
Yeah. Hey, Sarah, thank you so much for the presentation. Just a couple questions. So are the HUD AMI limits, because I know HUD made a significant change in their AMI in April of 2025. Are these reflective of those new changes?
That is correct.
Okay. Second of all, what does one of the things with the lawsuit, I'm not trying to bring that up, is that we've been doing our part. We have really been doing affordable housing in Aurora. Has that impacted any of the slowdown for us to meet our 1,600 units by 2026?
Yes, it has. Just to be quite frank, it has. We typically see between 13 and 18 applications during our community investment financing rounds. And last year, we only saw 4 applications per round.
Oh, wow. And we're getting, and December 31st, that's going to come up fast.
It is.
So, okay.
And Councilmember Lawson, just to add to
Yes.
that, I know
Okay.
you as Pfizer chair and Liz Rogers are tracking a couple different pieces of legislation related to Prop 123. So it was timely that Councilmember Jackson asked for kind of an update on this. So I've seen one piece come out. There's been some working group meetings. And so I just wanted to let you know we are tracking that, and hopefully
Okay.
that will at least extend the timeout or reduce the number. So we're not penalized for not meeting our thresholds, as we're just seeing the market demand for multifamily really drop off. I know Jacob Cox said we had very few even market rate multifamily come in 2025 as well.
Yeah, I mean, and again, we were one of the first to opt into Prop 123. And so the idea that I mean, December 31st, and we only had 4 applications, that's very concerning. Wow. Okay. That's all the questions I have. I'm a little astounded about that, but hopefully I'm hoping something that we can continue, because again, we have been doing affordable housing unit, but to know that we only got 4 applications and December 31st is going to come about, we're really pushing it. So I'm going to keep my fingers crossed on that. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you, Councilmember Lawson.
Councilmember Horton.
Yeah, Sarah, thanks for the presentation. Point of clarification, or perspective is, what is from builders, developers, um, regarding the lawsuit, like what's the hesitancy to submit the applications? Have you heard anything in that realm?
Well, I know that the economics have not been very great. Additionally, we have some things with the Build America, Buy America on the background of HUD has been pretty an issue as well. And then, having high interest rates has been another issue that we've had to battle.
Got it. Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Councilmember Horton.
Councilmember Hancock.
Thank you for that presentation. I really appreciate the update. I am interested, is there a threshold that we're trying to meet? Addressing Councilmember Lawson's concerns about us meeting those thresholds by the December 31st deadline.
We are about 500 units short to meet that 1,650 units.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, thank you for those numbers. And just that brought up a question. Because I've heard time and time again, there is no market for affordable housing. So how are we incentivizing, I guess, help me to understand that. Like, how do we appeal people to switch their units to affordable housing, incentivize developers? Paint that picture for me.
Certainly. We do what's called gap financing. We provide dollars in the either CDBG, home, Prop 123. We also do land banking so that they can come and build affordable housing on land that the city of Aurora owns. And it translates into a number of dollars per unit. And then they provide those units as affordable for us.
Okay. And does it even out? Because, like I heard from developers along my trail, like if we ask a developer who's building, let's say 100 units, we want them to make 30% of those units affordable. The developer is going to come back and say, well, I need to raise the rent for the 70% to cover that 30% because I still have to cover my own rent. So the city of Aurora, if I'm understanding, will come in and provide a comparison of dollars per affordable unit, does it cover the entire amount?
Sure. Great question. We have not had any market rate developers want to be incentivized that way. We specifically have affordable housing developers. We work
Okay.
with affordable housing developers for multifamily. We work with Habitat for Humanity and Elevation Community Land Trust to do home ownership models. And then we just incentivize all of them so that we have not only multifamily, but we have home ownership opportunities as well.
Okay, thank you so much for that clarification.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we've got about 15 minutes left. I do feel moved to continue on to item 4E, our Youth Civic Engagement Academy update.
Thank you, Chair Jackson and all. Good morning. My name is Jesse Byrne. I'm the Division Manager for Community Engagement. And just to give you some very brief historical context, we were able to provide through this department an adult civic engagement academy for several years. It's been very popular in the community. We've had many different adults who have participated in that academy, where they get to receive presentations from all different types of leaders here within the city of Aurora. These presentations help educate them and being able to understand how to be more informed civic leaders. And it's not unusual for many of those adults, once they graduate from the program, to go on to many of our boards and commissions. And approximately a year ago, we were receiving feedback from the community that it would be really helpful to provide a youth version of the Civic Engagement Academy. And so in order to be responsive to that feedback, we actually did launch a pilot this past fall, and it was led by our staff member, John Harris. And we're here to provide an update as to how that pilot went. And so with that, I'll turn it over to a staff member on our team, our Community Engagement Coordinator, Jaleesa Hankerson. Jaleesa?
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm really excited to talk about our Youth Civic Engagement Academy. As Jesse mentioned, my name is Jaleesa Hankerson. So this is the purpose of the academy here, to educate, empower, and connect our youth to civic life and local leadership. The decisions that were made for the actual academy itself were kind of grounded in these values, overall. Next slide, please, Andrew. Which you can see directly correlates to our goals, definitely increasing understanding of the civic and government processes for the youth, building leadership and teamwork and organizational skills, ideally allowing them to kind of create a project of their own fruition around a specific service in the community that they wanted to see happen for a demographic. We can talk about a little bit at the end, but just to continue on the goals, we have their civic responsibilities being fostered, then really just getting engaged with the city and finding different ways that they can share their voices or make their own impact. Next slide, please, Andrew. This is kind of how the program was built overall. It was formulated to be 3 weeks, 3 Saturdays, from November 1st to November 15th, and the sessions were about 12 to 5 p.m. So about 5 hours, and lunch was provided for the youth. They had 3 different locations that they got to experience, which was really awesome for them to kind of see the different aspects of City of Aurora and the different ways that they can get engaged. So the first session was here at the AMC. We had one at Aurora 911 downtown's Reach that also had some hands-on experience and allowed the youth to see not only how 911 operates, but it gave them access to certificates in, I believe, like first aid with some of our fire friends down there as well. And then the final session was at our Central Rec Center. So they could see different ways they could be involved with our pros and library and other teams. We definitely wanted to give them a lot of direct engagement with Aurora leaders. So we had different presentations from people like Jessica Foster, our director. We had Mayor Kaufman, Greg Hayes, and even more. I know Councilmember Hancock joined and Councilmember Medina joined as well to speak to the youth about how they can really see themselves in leadership within the city of Aurora in the future. Initially, it was designed for both high school and middle school students. Not many middle school applications were received, so I think it was about 22 applications total, with about 15 youth actually being accepted into the program. And those numbers are really just differences because some youth submitted multiple applications because they were just really excited. And then others just weren't able to actually commit due to like time restraints on their own responsibilities. But really wanted to be a safe space for them to be able to share this perspective and community concerns. Next slide, please, Andrew. And these are some of the different topics. Again, just trying to give them education around the different facets that local government has and different ways they can be involved, whether that be like career-wise or in volunteerism or maybe just sharing their voice with like youth council. So like I mentioned before, we did have presentations from Mayor Coffin, Jessica Process, some of our council members as well. The very last day, we also had people come out from like teen and library services and talk about some of their teen roles and opportunities for them to engage with each other and the community, and also from our youth council that came out and spoke to the youth as well. Excuse me, I keep saying council. Youth commission is what I meant to say. Next slide, please, Angie. Some of the impact we saw was just them understanding better the different ways that local government kind of operates and where voices can be interjected. I know they had a lot of input around like youth gun violence, which was really interesting to hear them talk about. They also were really just involved in different ways that they could see themselves giving back to their communities. And the culmination of the entire program was meant to be a volunteer program that they had kind of fostered and engaged in themselves. So this is actually a picture of them talking about how that could look and the different facets and elements they wanted in that actual project to come to be. Unfortunately, because of some things that happened, they didn't get that chance, but they did flesh out their ideas specifically, and we're still looking towards giving them the opportunity and potentially moving forward. We'll get back to the next slide, but I do want to say that a lot of their feedback was around how much they enjoyed the program, but how we could foster just more engagement from them with things like shorter sessions, but a longer overall process. So instead of 3 weekends, they wanted it to be like for 2 months or something like that, with like 2 to 3 hour sessions, just so they had more time to interact with each other, because they really feel like they didn't get as much time to do that. And they wanted more opportunities to see like other facets and opportunities in local government. But also we're mentioning that the 5 hours was a little bit long for them to stay engaged. Next slide, please, Andrew. All right, so our takeaways. The youth are really excited about, honestly, everything civic engagement related, which is really exciting to me. When I initially got there, I asked the first student that arrived why she had signed up for it, and she said her mom had forced her to. And although that was the truth, she was so excited about ways that she could figure out how she could be impactful within her city. And then at the very end, when we asked for their feedback, she was actually one of our most vocal students. She had the most to say about what things we can do to kind of tweak it and make it better, and just wanted to really see how we can continue along the path of like encouraging more youth into the space, because she thought it was really awesome. So definitely a spectrum of interests as far as like people or the youth that were a part of the program, but a lot of excitement overall, which was really awesome. Some opportunities for growth looking forward, just expanding partnerships with schools and other youth organizations. We tapped into that this year, but we definitely want to make that a little more robust so we have the opportunity to see more youth from different schools. I think at the end of it, there was a majority of only 3 schools that the youth came from. I know one of them was Eagle Crest. Can't remember the other 2, but I will definitely try to dig and see if I can figure that out if y'all are interested. Big need for transportation, because some of the youth didn't drive. A lot of them had to get dropped off. And understanding that maybe that was a level of access that all youth had, being able to expand the ways they get to our locations could be a really great opportunity for us to, again, have just more youth in this program. And then the really awesome part they're interested in was like an alumni piece. They wanted to talk to their fellow classmates about it, up to younger classmates about it, and just really like be a mouthpiece and a vocal for encouraging more of the youth in the actual involvement within the city of Aurora. And I just want to point out this picture because it's on the very first day. We actually took them into council chambers, and they were very excited to be in there. So there are actually a few of them that like sitting in there. One of them grabbed a gavel. And it was just really awesome to hear them talk about how they could see themselves in these seats one day, and they were excited about all the opportunities that they could really be impactful for their community. And last slide. Also, thank you so much, Andrew.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Jaleesa, for your presentation. I love that this is a program and I want to see it grow. Maybe internships, maybe a youth rep on city council. One question I do have for that is, what does investment look like? How is this invested in? Can constituents donate? How is it funded?
Thank you, Chair Jackson. This is really just been funded out of the HCS department, out of our general fund. There was really not a whole lot of additional funds that were set aside. It was actually not a particularly costly program, and so I think we are very supportive of any funding support that we receive. I think we still have a lot of space to grow the program before we reach any type of budgetary ceiling. It fits very nicely within the scope of work of a community engagement coordinator. I think the feedback we received from the youth was very reasonable and makes sense in terms of building on it in the future. We were happy to be able to come through and provide another update when applications go live. I would say that the biggest area that we need help in is maybe not necessarily budgetary, but just getting the word out in the community and getting more youth involved. We were very happy with the 15 or so that we had, but we'd love to see that grow to 25 to 30 this upcoming year. And so I would say that any good word that anybody can put in with the schools to help share this out, or even within your own networks. And then the last thing I would also say is that we really would appreciate any council members, and all of you have an open invite here to participate in the program directly, whether it be on roundtables or in attendance. It's really helpful for our youth to get to see themselves in the leaders of today, such as yourselves.
Thank you. Vice Chair Lawson.
Yeah, thank you, Jesse, and thank you, Jaleesa, for providing this. I'm glad that this is expanded, being the person who initiated the adult one, which I'm glad that one is still going. I think it's great to include the youth, and you know how I feel about civic engagement. Just a couple suggestions that I just wanted to just bring up for maybe the youth one. I think compared like at the adult one of the things that have been really effective is actually having issue, like having them up on the dais and present them a budget issue and see what we really do, how it is to be up on the dais. You have someone who's the mayor, you have everybody filling our seats. That's what we did for the adult one, to kind of see when people do public invited to be heard on the issue. So I would like to maybe see that initiated with the youth one. Another one that I would like to be considered, maybe if there's could be a slight thing on giving them a project, not a project, but just some like it could be a session where how we do an ordinance, what the thought, maybe they might come up with something and then sit around and see how that works. I think that would be very good. And then maybe having a shadowing, me or other council members, if they want to shadow a council member, I would be willing to do that to kind of see how my late day in life as a council member is, or, Council Member Jackson or Council Member Horton. So those are just some suggestions. But I think it's wonderful that you guys, and I will definitely get the word out as well.
Thank you, Council Member Lawson, Vice Chair Lawson. I love all three of those ideas. And the reason that I love them is they're experiential, right? We're not just talking at the students. They actually get to experience being on the diocese. They actually get to experience shadowing. I think that this past year, a lot of our curriculum was pretty presentational, and we can do both, right? We can educate them through presentations, but that experiential component, I think, is highly valuable. And I think all three of those ideas you suggested are highly feasible, and we'll look to incorporate them. Thank you for your feedback.
Lovely. I will go to Council Member Horton.
Thank you. No questions, just Julissa, I really appreciate you sharing the honesty of our young folks in community. If you ever want a real answer, go to a young person, right? So thank you guys for the work, and I am all in on however to support moving forward.
Lovely. All right, we are about 2 minutes out. Are there any updates from community? All right, well, we will end our meeting at 9:58, and our next meeting is, somebody help me out.
That'll be March 17th.
Oh, March 17th, again, on the 17th at 8:30 a.m. See you all then, and